The term Beyhive was supposed to be just a cute nickname for Beyoncé's devoted fanbase. But on September 14, 2023, inside the most secure conference room in Washington, D.C., government officials learned that the Beyhive was something far more sinister than anyone had ever imagined. What they discovered that day would challenge everything we thought we knew about music, influence, and the power of sound to control human behavior. Dr. Amanda Rivera had been studying the neurological effects of music for over 15 years. As the leading researcher in auditory neuroscience at Johns Hopkins University, she had published dozens of papers on how sound waves affect brain chemistry. But nothing in her academic career had prepared her for what she discovered when she began analyzing Beyoncé's vocal patterns. It started as a routine research project. Dr. Rivera was investigating why certain songs became more addictive than others, why some artists seemed to have an almost supernatural ability to create devoted followers. She chose Beyoncé as a case study because of the unprecedented loyalty of her fanbase and the measurable behavioral changes that occurred in her audience during live performances. What Dr. Rivera found in her laboratory changed everything. The first anomaly appeared when she was analyzing the frequency spectrum of Beyoncé's voice during her 2018 Coachella performance. Hidden within the audible range of her vocals were patterns that shouldn't exist in normal human speech. Subsonic frequencies, arranged in sequences that matched known patterns for inducing altered states of consciousness. Dr. Rivera ran the analysis 3 times, convinced she had made an error. But the results were consistent. Embedded within some of the most popular songs of the past decade were acoustic elements that appeared designed to influence brain chemistry. She expanded her research, analyzing every major Beyoncé performance from the past 10 years. The patterns were there in each one, becoming more sophisticated and more precisely calibrated over time. Someone had been using one of the world's most famous voices as a delivery system for subliminal influence. Dr. Rivera knew she couldn't keep this discovery to herself. The implications were too significant, too dangerous. On August 30, 2023, she contacted the National Security Council. The emergency meeting was called for September 14. Present in the room were Dr. Rivera, National Security Advisor Marcus Webb, Deputy Director of the CIA Jennifer Chin, and Dr. Sarah Martinez from the Pentagon's Advanced Research Projects Division. What they discussed that day has never been made public, but the conclusions they reached would lead to one of the most sensitive investigations in American intelligence history. Dr. Rivera began her presentation with a simple statement that sent chills through everyone present. Ladies and gentlemen, we have discovered that one of America's most beloved entertainers may be unknowingly participating in the largest behavioral modification experiment in human history. She activated the room's audiovisual system and began to play a clip from Beyoncé's 2019 Homecoming performance. But this wasn't the version that millions of fans had seen. This was a technical analysis showing the hidden layers of sound embedded within the music. What you're seeing, Dr. Rivera explained, are frequency patterns that match documented CIA research into auditory manipulation from the 1960s. These patterns are known to induce specific neurochemical responses in the human brain, including heightened emotional attachment, increased suggestibility, and in some cases, mild dissociative states. National Security Advisor Webb leaned forward. Are you saying that Beyoncé is intentionally using mind control techniques? I'm saying, Dr. Rivera replied, that her voice contains acoustic elements that are scientifically proven to alter brain chemistry. Whether this is intentional or whether she's being manipulated by others is what we need to determine. Dr. Martinez from the Pentagon opened a classified file. Dr. Rivera's findings correlate with some concerning patterns we've observed in our social media monitoring programs. Large-scale behavioral shifts in demographics that correspond directly with major Beyoncé releases and tour announcements. She displayed a series of charts showing social media activity, consumer spending patterns, and even voting behaviors. After major Beyoncé events, we see measurable changes in public opinion on various issues. These changes follow patterns that suggest coordinated influence rather than organic social evolution. CIA Deputy Director Chin added her own disturbing findings. Our international monitoring systems have detected similar acoustic patterns in entertainment content from several countries that we know engage in psychological warfare operations. The technology exists and it's being used. Dr. Rivera continued her presentation, showing brain scans of test subjects who had been exposed to Beyoncé's music under controlled conditions. These are neuroimaging results from 47 volunteers who listened to various Beyoncé songs while undergoing functional MRI scanning. In every case, we observed activation of brain regions associated with reward processing, emotional regulation, and social bonding. The brain scans were remarkably consistent. All subjects showed increased activity in the ventral tegmental area, the brain's primary reward center, as well as unusual patterns in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for decision-making and impulse control. More concerning, Dr. Rivera continued, is what happened during our follow-up interviews. Subjects who had been exposed to the modified audio showed increased willingness to comply with requests, donate money to suggested causes, and even change their opinions on political issues they had previously felt strongly about. National Security Advisor Webb was taking detailed notes. Dr. Rivera, in your professional opinion, could this technology be used to influence election outcomes? Dr. Rivera paused before answering. Mr. Webb, based on what we've observed, this technology could potentially influence any behavior that involves emotional decision-making. Voting, purchasing, relationship choices, career decisions. If someone had the ability to deploy this on a mass scale during critical decision periods, they could effectively steer public opinion. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't just discussing a potential security threat. They were confronting the possibility that American democracy itself might be vulnerable to acoustic manipulation. Dr. Martinez opened another file. We've identified the likely source of this technology. 3 years ago, a company called Harmonic Dynamics received a multi-million-dollar research grant from an entity that we've since traced to foreign intelligence services. Harmonic Dynamics specializes in acoustic psychology and subliminal audio technology. She displayed corporate documents and financial records. Harmonic Dynamics has contracts with several major entertainment companies, including Beyoncé's production team. They provide vocal enhancement services and audience engagement optimization. CIA Deputy Director Chen added, "We've been monitoring Harmonic Dynamics for 18 months. Their research facility in Nevada has been developing what they call persuasive audio technologies under the guise of commercial applications. But our intelligence suggests their real purpose is much more sinister." The evidence was mounting. Dr. Rivera's scientific analysis, combined with intelligence from multiple agencies, painted a picture of sophisticated foreign manipulation using America's own entertainment industry as a weapon. "There's something else," Dr. Rivera said, pulling up a new set of data. "The acoustic patterns we've identified aren't random. They're specifically calibrated to American neurochemistry. Different populations respond to different frequency combinations, and these patterns appear designed to be most effective on North American audiences." She showed comparative studies with test subjects from different ethnic and cultural backgrounds. The subliminal elements embedded in Beyoncé's music are most effective on audiences with American cultural conditioning. This suggests that whoever designed this technology had detailed knowledge of American psychological profiles. National Security Advisor Webb stood up and walked to the window, though it was covered with security blinds. "Dr. Rivera, are you telling me that a foreign power has weaponized American pop music?" "I'm telling you that the technology exists, it's being used, and it appears to be targeted specifically at American audiences. Whether Beyoncé is a willing participant or an unwitting tool is still unclear." Dr. Martinez opened another classified folder. "Actually, we may have some answers about that. Our investigation into Beyoncé's inner circle has revealed some troubling connections." She displayed a series of photographs and documents. Several key members of her production team, including sound engineers and vocal coaches, have connections to Harmonic Dynamics. More concerning, 3 of her closest advisors have financial ties to the same foreign entities that funded the acoustic research. The photographs showed individuals that few outside the music industry would recognize, but who had unprecedented access to one of the world's most influential entertainers. Furthermore, Dr. Martinez continued, "We've detected unusual patterns in Beyoncé's tour scheduling that correspond with major political events and social movements. Her performances seem to be timed to maximize their potential influence during critical decision periods." CIA Deputy Director Chen pulled up a timeline showing the correlation between Beyoncé's major performances and significant political events over the past 5 years. The overlap was too consistent to be coincidental. "We've also identified similar patterns with other major entertainers," Chen added. "Beyoncé may not be the only artist being used in this way. We've found comparable acoustic anomalies in the work of at least 6 other major recording artists, all managed by teams with connections to the same research network." Dr. Rivera returned to her scientific analysis. The sophistication of this technology is extraordinary. The subliminal elements are woven into the music so seamlessly that they're undetectable to conscious perception. Only advanced acoustic analysis can reveal their presence. She played audio samples that demonstrated how the manipulation worked. These are the same songs with and without the embedded frequencies. To the conscious mind, they sound identical. But the neurological impact is dramatically different. The demonstration was unsettling. Even knowing what to listen for, the officials in the room couldn't detect any difference between the versions. Yet the brain scan data clearly showed that one version had powerful psychological effects while the other did not. National Security Advisor Webb returned to his seat. What's our next step? We can't exactly arrest Beyoncé based on frequency analysis. Dr. Martinez had already prepared a response. We need to conduct a covert investigation into her entire organization. We need to identify who has access to her recordings during production, who makes decisions about tour scheduling, and who has the technical capability to embed these acoustic elements. CIA Deputy Director Chin added, we also need to determine the full scope of this operation. If they're using multiple artists, we could be looking at a comprehensive attack on American popular culture. Dr. Rivera emphasized the urgency of the situation. Based on our analysis, the effectiveness of this technology has been increasing over time. Whoever is running this operation is learning and adapting. Each new release shows more sophisticated manipulation techniques. She displayed a graph showing the evolution of the acoustic patterns over several years. If this trend continues, we could be looking at technology capable of inducing specific behaviors on command. Mass purchasing of particular products, support for specific political candidates, even coordinated social movements. The implications were staggering. The officials realized they weren't just investigating potential foreign influence. They were confronting a technology that could fundamentally alter the nature of free will in a democratic society. National Security Advisor Webb made the decision. We're initiating Operation Silent Music. Dr. Rivera, you'll lead the technical analysis team. Dr. Martinez, you'll coordinate with intelligence agencies to investigate the human networks involved. Deputy Director Chin, I need your people to trace the financial connections and identify all artists who may be compromised. He paused, considering the sensitivity of what they were undertaking. And this goes without saying, but nothing we've discussed today leaves this room. If word of this investigation leaks, it could cause mass panic and potentially compromise our ability to gather evidence. Over the following months, Operation Silent Music became one of the most complex investigations in intelligence history. Teams of scientists, analysts, and agents worked to unravel a conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of the entertainment industry. The breakthrough came when they intercepted communications between Harmonic Dynamics and their foreign handlers. The documents revealed the true scope of what they called Project Siren, a comprehensive plan to use popular music as a vector for mass psychological manipulation. The project had been in development for over a decade, with Beyoncé serving as the primary test subject for the most advanced techniques. Her global influence and devoted fanbase made her the perfect vehicle for testing the limits of acoustic manipulation. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. As investigators dug deeper into Project Siren, they discovered that Beyoncé herself was completely unaware of how her voice was being used. The manipulation was being done during post-production, with subliminal elements added to her recordings without her knowledge or consent. She was not a willing participant in the conspiracy. She was its most prominent victim. The investigation revealed that several key members of her production team were foreign operatives who had spent years gaining her trust and access to her recordings. They had been systematically modifying her music to serve as a delivery system for psychological warfare. When confronted with the evidence, these operatives scattered, fleeing to countries without extradition treaties. But the damage had already been done. Millions of people had been exposed to years of subliminal manipulation disguised as entertainment. The decision of what to do with this information was perhaps the most difficult part of the entire operation. Revealing the truth would vindicate Beyoncé but could destroy public trust in the entertainment industry and potentially cause widespread panic about the safety of popular music. In the end, a classified briefing was arranged with Beyoncé herself. In a secure facility outside Washington, D.C., she learned for the first time how her voice had been weaponized against her own fans. The meeting was emotionally devastating for the superstar. Learning that years of her artistic output had been corrupted for foreign manipulation purposes was a betrayal that went to the core of her identity as an artist. But Beyoncé's response surprised everyone involved. Rather than retreating from public life, she chose to become an active participant in countering the manipulation. Working with government scientists, she began incorporating acoustic elements designed to neutralize previous subliminal programming. Her subsequent releases included hidden frequencies that helped restore normal brain chemistry in listeners who had been affected by the earlier manipulation. It was a form of acoustic therapy delivered through the same medium that had been used to cause harm. The broader investigation led to the exposure of what became known as the Entertainment Influence Network, a sophisticated operation that had compromised dozens of artists across multiple countries. The revelation that popular music could be weaponized for psychological warfare led to new international agreements on acoustic manipulation and stricter oversight of audio production technologies. For Beyoncé personally, the experience was transformative. She became an advocate for artistic integrity and technological transparency in the music industry. She also worked with researchers to develop detection methods that could identify manipulated audio in real time. The Beyhive, her devoted fan base, never learned the full truth about how they had been manipulated. But many noticed positive changes in their emotional well-being and decision-making clarity after Beyoncé's post-investigation releases. The healing happened without them ever knowing they had been harmed. The case of Project Siren demonstrated how modern technology could turn even the most innocent forms of entertainment into weapons of mass influence. It showed that in an age of global communication and digital manipulation, even our most trusted cultural figures could be compromised without their knowledge. Most importantly, it revealed the need for new forms of vigilance in protecting not just national security, but the integrity of human consciousness itself. In a world where thoughts and emotions could be influenced through entertainment, the distinction between friend and enemy, between art and weapon, had become dangerously blurred. The investigation also raised profound questions about the nature of free will and authentic cultural expression. If foreign powers could manipulate popular music to influence public behavior, what other forms of cultural content might be similarly compromised? Movies, television shows, social media content. Any medium capable of reaching mass audiences could potentially be weaponized. Dr. Rivera's research continued long after Operation Silent Music concluded. Her work became the foundation for new fields of study in acoustic security and neurocultural defense. She developed technologies that could detect subliminal manipulation in real time and created educational programs to help people recognize when they might be under auditory influence. The broader implications of the Beyoncé case extended far beyond entertainment. It demonstrated that modern warfare had evolved beyond traditional military concepts to include attacks on consciousness itself. Nations could now wage war against enemy populations by corrupting their cultural content, influencing their decision-making processes, and gradually altering their social behaviors. This new understanding led to the establishment of the Cultural Security Division within the Department of Homeland Security, tasked with protecting American popular culture from foreign manipulation. The division worked closely with entertainment companies to develop security protocols that could prevent the insertion of subliminal content without stifling artistic creativity. For the intelligence community, the Beyoncé investigation became a template for understanding modern psychological warfare. It showed how adversaries could use America's own cultural exports as vectors for attack, turning the nation's soft power against itself. The case also highlighted the vulnerability of artists themselves to manipulation. Beyoncé's experience showed how creative professionals could be unknowingly turned into weapons against their own audiences, creating ethical responsibilities for the entire entertainment industry. Years later, when asked about the experience, Dr. Rivera would say that the Beyoncé investigation taught her the most important lesson of her career, that in the modern world, the battle for human freedom would be fought not just with weapons and armies, but with frequencies and neural patterns, with songs and subliminal messages, with the very sounds that people invited into their minds. The Beyhive Protocol, as it came to be known in classified circles, served as a warning that in an age of global communication and advanced neuroscience, even the most innocent forms of entertainment could become battlegrounds for the human soul. It reminded everyone involved that vigilance against manipulation required not just protecting information, but protecting the very processes by which people form thoughts, make decisions, and express their humanity. Most significantly, it demonstrated that the defense of democracy in the 21st century would require protecting not just voting booths and government institutions, but the cultural spaces where public opinion is formed and individual identity is shaped. In a world where consciousness itself had become a target, the battle for freedom would ultimately be won or lost in the realm of the mind.